For Unit 5, Day 3 notes, we have congruent figures, which could be anything. It could be polygons, could be triangles, quadrilaterals, pentagons, anything, any figure. It says a congruent polygons have congruent corresponding parts, their matching sides, and their angles. When you name congruent polygons, you must list corresponding vertices in the same order. So this right here pretty much helps you with that. So like angle A corresponds to angle E. So angle A is equal to angle E. Angle B is equal to angle F. And so each one of these like angles and the sides correspond. So like AB would be equal to EF. Okay. Now, down in this one, it says congruency statements. This one we emphasize quite a bit. This is an example of a congruency statement. All your letters match up. So like A, so angle A would match up to angle D. Angle B matches up to angle E. Okay, then like your sides, AB would match up to DE. CA would match up to FD. So this congruency statement is pretty important. It helps with a lot of different things that we're going to do in this particular unit. So a valid congruency statement must match all corresponding angles and sides. So like angle A has to match up with angle D because they are the exact same. So down here in example 1, it says find the congruent parts. If figure HIJK is congruent to LMNO, what are the congruent corresponding parts? So instead of looking at this picture, I would just look at your congruency statement. It's going to be the most useful thing to you. So like angle H is going to match up with angle L. So it's going to be congruent to angle L. Then angle I is congruent to angle M. Angle J is congruent to angle N. Angle K is congruent to angle O. Then I could do segments. So HI is congruent to LM. Then IJ is congruent to MN. JK is congruent to NO. And then lastly, KH is congruent to OL. Okay, so I just used the congruency statement to help me write all my congruent angles, all my congruent sides. Okay, now for part B, instead of listing like what segment or what angle letter goes with these, we got to figure out the actual measurements. Okay, now that M right there means give me the measurement. Alright, so let's see, JI. So JI matches up with XY. XY is 16. So 16 meters. Okay, JH. So JH matches up with XW, and that's 15 meters. Okay, now angle W matches up with angle H. So H is 37. So that means that W is 37 degrees. Okay, angle J matches up with X, and that's 114. And then lastly, angle I matches up with Y. Well, we don't know that angle. But we also, in day 1, learned that a triangle has 180 degrees. So if I add up my 37 and my 114, I get 151. And if I subtract that from 180, we get 29 degrees. So 29 degrees would be angle I. Okay, moving on to the next example, which should say example 2, but says example 3. We're going to fix that right now. we have to come up with the measurements again. So again, that congruency statement is going to help us out quite a bit. For BN, segment BN matches to SW. SW is 9. TW matches up to FN. So that's 14, but FN matches up to TW. So that's 14 centimeters. Okay? Then BF matches up to ST, which is 17. Okay, now we have angle D, and I'm sorry, part D, angle W. So W matches up to N. N is 82. Angle B matches up to angle S. Angle S is 76. And then lastly, angle F matches up to angle T, which is unknown. So I can add up those two angles, which is 149. And if I subtract that from 180, we would get 31. Okay, so angle F is 31 degrees. Okay, for part B, this one, the first two parts is just listing angles and congruent sides. There is no measurement value here. I do find that the M here is a little misleading, but you're just figuring out like angle A is congruent to what other angle? Angle P. Okay. Angle B is congruent to angle Q. Angle C is congruent to angle R. Okay, we could probably even take that M off. Okay, then for your sides, AB would be matching up to PQ, BC to QR, and then CA to RP. Now, go ahead and find X, Y, and angle C. Alright, so before I do X and Y, let's look here. I know that angle A and angle B are 64 and 62 respectively, so I can add those together and then subtract that from 180 and get 54. So I know angle C is 54. Okay, now that I have all my angles, I can figure out this part pretty simply. So, to figure out angle Q, Q matched up to B. B is 62. So I would set this equal to 62 and solve it. Then for X, okay, angle P matches up to angle A. Angle A is 64. So now that I have my two equations, I can go ahead and solve those. So 3y minus 10 equals 62. Add my 10, we get 72, and if I divide by 3, we get 24. Okay, then for the x equation, we have 8x plus 24 equals 64. So if I subtract 24, we get 40, and if we divide by 8, we get 5.